Hey everyone, welcome to my review of the Gustav Karl Unicorn version. This is from the Gundam Unicorn anime, and it's a really cool model kit. This thing is basically a big, chunky version of a gym, and it looks really cool. You have some shots of it in the anime, I believe, and then just some artwork that you find on the front of the box. You have destroyed, I think that's a Delta Gundam, or and then you have, of course, the just a cannon, and this thing is really cool, really mean and big, so let's get this guy all built up. And while he visually looks awesome, I do have mixed opinions on this one. However, starting on with the appearance, this is a very chunky looking this is a very chunky looking Federation mobile suit. Unlike the other gyms, which are a little smaller, this guy is big, and he is not necessarily loaded, but he essentially has the standard Gundam loadout of beam, board, and shield. Now, the flame sabers are not in the back. Instead, he has the shield attached to the back and not the arm, which is pretty interesting. The instruction booklets have some color pages and some black and white pages, but they're basically just fold out instructions as normal. And I do miss the booklet that came with the Megatron figure I just built. This guy looks wonderfully chunky. I love how the color is separated between the gray and the blue outer layers. That makes it look pretty cool. And it even uses plastic joints on plastic, which is something that they started doing in 2019 and that sort of era, moving into that Witch from Mercury wave and into now, where they're basically phasing out polycaps, though the lower end does use polycaps. The head is a little annoying because it has a sticker, but in this case, for that V-fin, I used Sharpie, and I did try and use some light sanding to kind of give texture to all the blue parts on this guy, because I felt like he was looking a little too plain, so why not just scratch him up a bit? Color-wise, again, it looks really solid, very anime, very classic looking, though it's not quite the original, more neon-y, more angular version of the Gustav Karl. This guy has some really nice details going throughout the entire body, and that sort of mismatch of big chunky Xeon style proportions with that overall Federation aesthetic creates a very unique look that I think makes this guy stand out a lot. Think of it like how the Nightingale takes the Sazabi and just elongates everything. Now apply that to the gym, or the Mark II, or the Jesta. Now, there is a sticker sheet, but I didn't really use it aside from the reflective stickers, so moving on to the accessories, and you have, again, your standard loadout, plus this extra arm. Now, unfortunately, while it does have an extra hand backing, there is no open palm hand, which I feel restricts some poses that you can do in the future. However, you do get your beam saber that plugs into the beam saber hilt, and that just sticks into the hand, which is actually fairly stable. Normally, these whole round pegs and square holes fall out, but in this case it holds in pretty decently. And you can even store it on the skirts, meaning that pretty much everything this figure comes with accessory wise can store on the figure itself. Now, taking off the shield allows you to replace it with this longer shield arm, which basically means that you can swivel this to the front to have the shield not just be on the side and back, but on the front where, you know, a shield should be, which is pretty sweet, though it does still have some interference and doesn't actually move back as much as I would like it to, which is fine because it still works for what it does, but I'm just going to stick with the normal shield arm. In this instance, the Gustav Karl comes with a Jagan beam rifle. Now, unfortunately, it is a bit shaky in the hands, even with some sticky tack to make it less shaky, which is pretty unfortunate, but it's a long-standing thing with Gundam model kits, and it does also come with a holding hand. This is a pretty standard set of accessories, and it was also standard, or not exactly, is the articulation. Head is on a ball joint that swivels around that much and goes up and down that much, and then it's also connected to a hinge joint which allows for a giggity goo. And then we have the shield, which is on a shield arm, which goes up and down on a hinge joint, and then that is connected to a ball joint that is also connected to a hinge joint. Though the ball joint, which is plastic on plastic, does like to come off a little bit, which is annoying. Then you have the the shoulder, which goes out and then swivels around, though it is a little loose on the shoulder section itself, the shoulder armor has a little pauldron thing that moves up and down to allow for more extension of the arm, which allows for a really nice bend up, which is quite good. Now, if you use that extra pauldron, you can get a deeper bend with the double jointed arm bend, which looks pretty sweet. Now, the hand is just on a ball joint, which is incredibly standard for almost every single Gundam model kit, at least at high grade scale. The torso is pretty limited and it's just kinda on a swivel joint. There is an extra ball joint, but it basically just acts as a connection joint. Then the side skirts are on a hinge joint each, so they do like to pop off if you push them too far. Then you have ball jointed front skirts, which are incredibly limited in my opinion. The back skirt is on a hinge and a swivel, allowing for some pretty decent movement, and surprisingly, compared to other model kits which don't have it. And then you have a really nice spread, but it is a little finicky with how all the joints fit together, and as you can see, I kind of pulled the guy apart while doing it. Then the leg goes forward that far. The leg itself extends out, and the ball joint that the leg is connected to can allow it to move back that far, and it's also on a rocking joint. The knee bends back that far, and the foot is connected to a ball joint which is connected to a hinge joint, allowing for a decent range of motion. Of course, the little front armor thing on the foot also can go up and down, and that is it, except for the little flap that allows you to see the missiles. Overall, this is a pretty good range of articulation that allows for a lot of unique poses, but at the same time it is relatively standard except for the extending leg joint. If you say had the Revive RX-78, you pretty much know how he moves, just with less torso articulation. Moving on to the size comparisons, and this guy is next to the Gundam Virtue and Figma Hatsune Miku. Then we have the Justa and Justa Cannon, and finally we have my previous review, Megatron from Blockies, and the always bulky Sazabi. Overall, the Gustav Karl is an incredibly unique looking model kit. While it does have some issues and stability wise in the torso, it can be a little bit iffy. If you like big chunky mobile suits, you will like this kit. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe and have a great rest of your day. Bye! Oh, leave a comment down below what you thought. Bye!